Hi, folks. This is episode number 9 of Finding Your Hidden Autistic or Asperger's Superpower. My name's Dan, and I hope you enjoy this video. So, I've been talking about the AppSpy test, and question number 2 I'll be going over today. So, question number 2 is: do you have an avid perseverance in the gathering and or cataloging information on a topic of interest? One of the things that I remember as far back is maybe sixth or seventh grade, I took some sort of a test where it was supposed to tell us our strengths and what type of jobs we should start studying for, even back in those days. I was told that I would be a good librarian. But at the same time, I thought that the stereotypical librarian was the old lady with the glasses, even though I have glasses now. The old lady with the glasses that would yell at people and tell them to shut up, and because they were being too loud, and I didn't like that. I didn't understand because all it said was it was a printout, and all it said was librarian, and so uh, if and in a lot of my life, I've needed to catalog and dive into finding more information about certain things, um, and I found that that's something I'm able to do. One of the things that I had lots of allergies as a kid, which a lot of people who have autism have a lot of gut issues. I had a lot of gut issues myself. So enough about me. So, bottom line is that if you are into collecting things, sometimes that can be helpful, sometimes that can be harmful. So, I'm using this thing again. I don't know how well you can see it, but it's called the decisional balance. Um, so, this is just a way of setting up and breaking down any type of a subject. So a lot of the times I'm going to be using this. So I just wrote down collecting information. How can collectible information be not helpful if you don't change and you're collecting too much of anything? So I'm sure we've heard of that show Hoarders. Um, that's it's worst case scenario, but that can happen. We can hoard information, we can hoard things, we can collect things, and they just pile up and pile up and pile up unless we prioritize and figure out what's good to keep and what we need to throw away or sell or move out and donate. So um, what is not helpful if you don't change? What is helpful if you change? Uh, what is not helpful if you do change? Because change a lot of the times involves pain. So when people are in pain, they're going to go right back to getting rid of the pain, which can be just going right back to the same old behaviors that they're doing that in the short term make them feel good, but in the long term are not helpful. So the bottom line is what we want to get to is what's going to be helpful if we do change. So if you have this problem of collecting and you're building up too much junk and you're not able to figure it out, you probably have a problem. So I just wrote down what is not helpful if you don't change. Hoarding, like I've been talking about. Also, the problem with attachment to things that you're not necessarily thinking about whether it's valuable or not valuable, you're just holding on to it. Um, and the reason for that is because you have an equal assessment and equal opinion on the value of whatever you're collecting. So sometimes people collect newspapers. Is hardly anybody even buys a newspaper anymore, but in that show hoarding, people are collecting newspapers and they're like, well, what if I want to read this again? And they never go back to reading it again. It just builds up, builds up. There's a lot of irrational behavior that happens. But humans are not rational. We would like to be, but in general, humans are not rational. So, what is not helpful in changing? So let's look at that. So it creates pain. Change usually creates pain, unless the pain is so great of not changing, then the pain is of changing is less. So a lot of times people have to hit what's called rock bottom, where the pain is so great that they need to change, or something drastic is going to happen to their lives. So loss with collecting, uh, just the actual looking and assessing at what you've collected, you're going to have to throw away stuff, whether it be information, whether it be Pokemon cards, whether it be books, whether it be whatever it is that you collect, if you collect a lot of things. So you have to go through and you got to prioritize. So you got to sit down and look at all your junk and look at, you got to prioritize this stuff because you want to be able to use the stuff that's valuable, enjoy the stuff that's valuable. But how are you going to be able to do that if it's a big hunk of junk and you can't get to the valuable stuff because it's all the non-valuable stuff is all piled up, a bunch of rags, a bunch of old newspapers, a bunch of old magazines, a bunch of, even with your computer, if you don't prioritize and put important documents in easy to find folders, all of a sudden you're looking for something and then you're asking Google to find it for you, and Google's okay, but at finding stuff through the internet, but finding something in your computer or in your email, I haven't found it to be all that great. So a lot of that stuff can just be lost, and it's still there, but you haven't prioritized, and you haven't put a star next to it, or 5 gold stars saying that this is super valuable, and this is 3 raspberries for this is total junk and I need to throw it away to get rid of it. And so you got to realize that certain things are actually not as valuable as you once thought they were. Maybe they were when a couple of years ago, or maybe even 6 months ago, or maybe even last week. But if it's non-valuable information, how many people get rid of their emails? So it just builds up, builds up, builds up to the point where you don't even want to read any emails because you got 500 emails that you got to go through in order just to read one email. So you're going to have to go through and figure out what's valuable and what's not. Nostalgia. So a lot of things bring up past memories. This past memories could be good. This past memories also could be bad. So if what you're holding on to is giving you a bad memory, you might want to, even if you don't want to throw that away, you might want to put it away in some sort of a box where maybe you look at it 5 years from now, but at the same time, why are you holding on to it in the first place? Because if it's creating a bad memory, what's the point in that? So, what is helpful about collecting information? And so collecting information, you can organize your life, you can better your life, you can become an expert at whatever you're collecting. So I already talked about the librarian thing. A lot of us, people with autism and Asperger's, a lot of us are into computers. A lot of us are into math. I'm not the greatest math whiz, but a lot of people are in the computer field and they're in IT, and they're able to make sense of all of the information, which is super important because if you have this um, this healthy collect, if you make this collecting information healthy, what you can do is make a lot of money from it, because if you can even if it's just cards, and because like Pokemon cards, there's a whole bunch of different cards out there that people are able to trade. They're able to find something that costs them like $5, and then they can sell for $100. So the bottom line is getting organized and allowing yourself to become uh, get rid of the clutter in your head. I've had to do that because one of the ways I've described my problem is that if sometimes, especially when I'm stressed, if I can turn 10 degrees to the right to get where I need to go, I may turn 350 degrees to the left in order to get to that 10 degrees in which, so I'm using a ton of energy that's wasted in order to do something that I could do just very easily by just turning just a little bit. And sometimes it's very difficult to get that turning radius to go in the direction that you want. But a lot of that's just learned behaviors. And so we're going to have to start thinking about how to unlearn those behaviors. So, organizing your life is the most important uh, aspect that I'm thinking about right now. Um, just in doing this and preparing for this video, quite frankly, I only took like 5 minutes to do this. And, I'm talking, this will probably be a 15-minute video. But this way of writing down what's not helpful, what is helpful, and how to change and how not to change. So you got to weigh all of those. You got to weigh it all and decide for yourself whether you need to change or you don't need to change, because maybe you don't need to change, but you want to weigh it out beforehand. You want to take a rational look at any one of your behaviors to try and figure out whether you need to change or you don't. And then you can decide. So, one of the things that's helpful for changing is is definitely letting go of stuff that's not useful to you, assessing value to the things that you hold dear in your life. And then you're going to be able to figure out, um, because you may be um, any aspect of your life where you're holding on to something, and you got to be careful that you're not holding on to it irrationally because of emotions, about thinking about the past, thinking about hoping that others will change, because like a lot of the times we need to move on from some relationships, because if they're not working for us, um, that's causing harm. And so we need to prioritize our lives. So I'm going to cut it from here, and hope this is helpful, and have a good day.